A car show daredevil appears to blow himself up.
That's chasing danger, baby!
There's no way he'd be able to survive this.
Two free climbers scale buildings and bridges with no net and no fear.
A single slip-up will bring them tumbling down to their deaths.
And a skydive stuntman cheats death in a free-fall crash landing without a parachute.
This is a death wish.
Whether fact, fake, or fluke, we'll dissect these amazing web videos and break down the science behind them. Right now on Superhuman Science. At a speedway in Illinois, USA. Daredevil Gregory Carpenter, known as Dr. Danger, prepares for a scorching hot stunt.
Make sure everything's disconnected.
He wires 1 kilo of explosives to 75 litres of petrol.
That's chasing danger, baby!
One misstep could land you in a hospital very quickly.
Getting out of here.
Then sits in an old banger, flips a switch, and appears to blow himself up.
This is really a spectacular stunt.
The smoke and the clouds, it's definitely real.
A few seconds later, Dr. Danger emerges from the explosion.
It was so freaking hot, and I just wanted out. I jumped out and I fell flat on my face, and I was crawling through the gas. I was crawling through that fire just trying to get out.
Incredibly, he frees himself from the flames and makes it to safety.
This guy is crazy. They've set up this massive explosion with this huge cloud of smoke. There's no way he'd be able to survive this, but he does.
So how is this possible? Our experts look through the smoke and fire to find out.
The flames are real, the explosion's real, but we don't actually see any pieces of the car flying or glass from the windows flying anywhere. So I'm not exactly sure that that car is exploding.
I can't imagine that he would survive this if the explosion originated from inside the car.
What most likely happened with this is that the explosion just happened outside the car. The car was actually safe for him, and so he could emerge with no problem.
Dr. Danger is a performer.
What on earth possesses you to do something like that?
Have trouble keeping a real job.
He spent a lifetime playing with fire, and he knows the drill.
You can't breathe the fire. Breathing in fire is the quickest way to end up dead. And you can get burned all over your body all day long, but once you breathe it in, you're through.
He uses science to his advantage to survive exploding cars and walls of fire.
He's got a great deal of safety gear on. He has a fire retardant gear. He has a helmet. I'm sure he has some kind of gel that's protecting his body.
To avoid burning like a torch, he has to cover every centimeter of skin.
It only takes milliseconds for damage to be done to your skin from fire. If any of us were involved in an explosion like this without the protective gear that Dr. Danger has, we would not survive.
In another stunt, Dr. Danger attempts a daring jump over a pile of stacked cars.
Oh, baby.
Oh,
Here we go.
But he comes up short with a spectacular crash.
This is basic high school physics, and someone didn't do the calculation.
Any stunt that involves projectile motion needs the right speed, height, and distance to be successful. Dr. Danger comes up short on all 3 counts.
If you stop the tape right there, you can just take a straight line and draw it off the edge of the ramp, and we see that it barely is going to clear those cars anyway. When you factor in that gravity is going to be pulling down on his vehicle as soon as he exits the ramp, there's no way he should have cleared those cars.
So, is he really missing the mark? Or is he playing to the crowd?
He could actually jump over the cars if he wanted to, but instead he wants to make a show, he wants to make a spectacle and crash into all those cars.
Dr. Danger says he installs roll bars and other safety precautions inside his stunt cars. That might be the key to him making it out alive.
If you do this day in and day out like Dr. Danger does, it's only a matter of time before something goes wrong.
While Dr. Danger's fiery stunts are super spectacular, our experts can't quite call them superhuman.
He's a professional daredevil, and it shows. He lives up to his name. It's super dangerous, but I don't think it's superhuman.
From fiery car show stunts, we shift to fearless free climbing at dizzying heights.
Что, снимает?
High above Shanghai, China, two amateur daredevils attempt a life-threatening climb. Towering more than 600 meters above the street.
My first opening thought here was panic.
It's truly death-defying here.
Russians Vitaly Roskolov and Vadim Makarov are extreme free climbers. They scale bridges, buildings and other structures with no nets, no lifelines and no safety gear.
A single slip-up will bring them tumbling down to their deaths.
This isn't just risky, what they're doing, it's also kind of illegal.
So how is this possible? How can they survive? Our experts say cheating death takes some natural-born abilities.
You need to have a good amount of arm strength and leg strength to pull yourself up and keep climbing for that long distance.
Even though it's not the same as walking on a balance beam very high above the ground, you still need the balance.
There's a great deal of coordination, balance, stamina.
They also have extraordinary senses and keep keen control of them.
These guys cannot depend on vision alone, or vision and their sense of hearing or the vestibular system, but there's a certain proprioception that's really important here.
You don't want to suffer from vertigo and not know which way is up and which way is down.
You have to actually feel what they're on before they take a step.
More than 32 million online viewers have seen their fearless and dizzying climb atop this Shanghai tower.
When I see this video, I start to get queasy, and a lot of people will get queasy watching this video too. And it's because our body is getting mixed signals.
For many, just watching can trigger unsettling anxiety or nausea.
Our eyes see that there's danger at a really high height, but our bodies sitting here, in this chair for instance, don't get that sense. The body gets confused and it kind of results in nausea.
It's similar to reading in a moving car. Your eyes see a still page, while your inner ear senses motion. Those mixed signals can cause motion sickness.
Scientists have done experiments with people to basically figure out how much can they handle, how much visual stimulation can you give them with them sitting still to cause nausea. And it turns out the more complex the picture is, the easier it is, the faster you start to feel sick.
So how is it that our climbers' brains don't sense this danger or fear?
Maybe they don't have the ability to release adrenaline when they see something scary.
They have no fear of heights whatsoever.
When you're afraid of something, your brain releases adrenaline, and that causes your heart rate to quicken, your palms to sweat.
I think if you looked closely at their DNA, they'd be missing the fear gene.
Fear or not, they still must battle natural forces to survive these climbs.
Buildings move, and tall buildings are going to sway back and forth.
You're going to have a lot higher wind up there, and that could knock them off.
That structure's moving with them on it, which gives them a better chance of tumbling to their death.
Extreme climbers Vitaly and Vadim are clearly super fearless, but are they superhuman? Our experts say, well, not quite.
Maybe not superhuman, but certainly super daring.
I don't know that I'd call these guys superhuman, but certainly super fearless.
From life-threatening heights, we switch next to a potentially deadly wingsuit crash landing without a parachute. Still ahead, an explosive daring stunt that mixes surfing waves and dynamite. And a warrior monk lets his fingers do the walking in a mind-over-matter balancing act. High above Henley-on-Thames, England, a daredevil in a wingsuit jumps from a helicopter. He's attempting a dangerous history-making first to survive a crash landing without a parachute.
This is definitely a death-defying stunt.
This is a death wish.
Falling 730 meters at speeds of over 120 kilometers an hour, his landing strip is a massive pile of empty cardboard boxes.
We shouldn't have to say that this could kill you, but let's just go ahead and say it. This could kill you.
Things are only dangerous if they hurt you. So what can I tell you? I'll let you know afterwards.
In less than 1 minute, he nears the ground. He adjusts the suit to slow to about 24 kilometers an hour. Then he crashes hard into the boxes.
The speeds at which he's moving are fatal.
Yet, remarkably, he survives.
I'm in a space that is so indescribable. I'm buzzing.
The cardboard box landing strip is a really clever answer to how do you stop yourself from dying when falling.
British stuntman Gary Connery's safe landing earns him a place in the record books. So how did he do it? Our experts look at the wingsuit science.
You think of the term wingsuit and you think of something a person can use to fly. But it's not really a flying suit, it's more of a controlled falling suit.
Gary's 6-pound suit was designed specifically for this jump. But all wingsuits work basically the same way.
A big flappy wing is going to slow you down, and when you fold the wings in and you become much more narrow, you go much faster.
Once a wingsuit flyer is airborne, several forces come into play.
As he's falling, he's balancing the force of lift that's keeping him above the ground, the force of gravity that's pulling him downward, and the force of drag that's slowing him down as he's moving through the air.
Vertical movement is determined by weight and lift. Gravitational force is pulling his weight down at 9.81 meters per second squared. The wingsuit's flaps provide a flat surface or airfoil to take advantage of the air resistance and create lift to slow his fall.
And he can angle the wingsuit back and forth a bit to change how he's flying in the air. If he glides too high, he's going to overshoot the boxes.
The only thing standing between Gary and certain death is a 100-meter landing strip of 18,500 empty cardboard boxes.
Because he is coming in from an angle, that helps to expand the amount of time that he spends going from full speed to stop.
The cardboard boxes are acting like a runway of airbags for him, cushioning his fall.
The human body can only take so much impact before it falls apart.
So what sets this professional stunt skydiver apart from the rest of us?
Gary has 3 things that most of us don't have. He's got nerve, he's got incredible abilities with a wingsuit, and he's got $35,000 to spend on cardboard boxes.
Gary Connery made history with this feat, but does it make him superhuman? Our experts think so.
My bar for superhuman is pretty high, but he definitely has a really good sense for manipulating objects in the sky, and that is pretty superhuman.
He can do something that no one else in the world can do.
From surviving crash landings to a surfer riding an explosive killer wave like nothing you've ever seen. Copenhagen, Denmark. A chaotic scene with dynamite. A surfer paddles out. His friend waves a bundle of smoking dynamite and throws it. We see the water explode.
The dynamite's real. The explosion looks plenty real.
That dynamite is a little too close. You could die.
Then a monster wave breaks. The fearless surfer catches it and rides it in.
These kids are likely going to go to jail for a very long time.
Spectacular, yes. But is this real or rigged?
The quality of the video masks a lot of things. So they could have put more film grain and grit over top of the footage to hide some of the tricks they were trying to play.
And a closer look puts the science in doubt.
The first time I saw it, I thought, maybe this is real. Maybe this could happen. But you watch it a few times and it just doesn't quite add up.
There's so much wrong with this video, I don't even know where to start.
First, It takes an enormous amount of energy to move water.
I think we forget exactly how heavy it is. If we actually sit and do the calculation of what 1 cubic meter of water weighs, we'd see that this is going to take an enormous amount of dynamite power to move that much water.
To create a wave this size, dynamite has to be able to push this massive, massive wall of water up from a standstill.
And an explosion this size would not trigger a surf wave this big.
The explosion comes from one point, so it really ought to be coming out in kind of radially.
Not in a linear wave, which is what we're used to seeing on beaches.
That wave looks a little too conveniently like a wave from the ocean, which is what it actually is.
As it turns out, it's a fake. Our experts see 3 separate shots composited together in this video.
Someone really did surf on a wave. They really did throw dynamite into a lake, but these things didn't happen in the same place in that order.
The one dead giveaway is that they never show the surfer actually making it to land. They just cut away with him midstream.
This awesome fake surf fantasy video that went viral on the web was an ad created for a clothing company.
First, what happens is I get sucked in and I get really excited by it, and then the scientist in me takes over and wants to shake me and be like, you're not supposed to believe everything you see online.
You know, it may not be real, but I certainly enjoyed watching it.
From explosive surfing, we turn next to a supercharged man who's got electricity running through his veins. In India, a man named Suraj Kumar claims he has a rare gift: immunity to electricity. He shows that he can touch live wires that send 220 volts of electricity shooting through his body. And he barely flinches.
That would usually knock someone out or kill them.
If you shock an ordinary person with too much electricity, that can create a burn, and he's not showing any signs of burns.
So is it possible to be shock-proof? Could this be real?
I don't actually see signs of video manipulation, but the way that this is edited leaves out a lot of key information.
We don't know the voltage, we don't know the current that was involved in these stunts. And so it's hard to know what's real and what's not here.
If Suraj's ability is real, then there's one simple explanation.
He must have some kind of natural higher resistance in his body that allows him to withstand this.
When thinking about what's going to harm a person, it's actually the current that's the problem, not the voltage.
At low currents, that electric shock will just hurt. Higher currents will have significant physiological effects.
Suraj appears to have enough resistance in him to impede the electrical current. So what's his secret?
You can change your resistance. For example, if you get your skin wet, then your resistance goes down when you're touching electric wires. But if you're really dry, if you're really rough, if that current doesn't have an easy way to get into you, your resistance goes up.
Suraj might just have extra thick skin and dry, rough hands.
There have been cases of other people who can withstand a lot of electricity, who have, for example, very thickened skin on parts of their body. And that thick skin acts like insulated gloves, protecting them from the electricity.
While this shock is likely to be painful, Suraj shows no signs of distress.
It's clearly not a sufficiently high current to affect the heart or the brain.
It seems that his electrical resistance is, by definition, superhuman.
If this is real, I'd call this superhuman, since it's an ability that most people don't have.
Still, if Suraj keeps playing with electricity, there's a very good chance that one day he'll get zapped.
No one is shockproof. If you have enough current going through you, you're going to get hurt.
Finally, from a man charged with too much power, we concentrate on a monk who tests his inner strength without lifting a finger. Our next video takes place in a Hong Kong gym. Shaolin monks from China's Henan province prepare to demonstrate their skills. A combination of kung fu and meditation. This monk takes his floor exercises to a whole new level, balancing his entire body on the tips of just 2 fingers on each hand.
Biomechanically, he should not be able to do this. Biologically, he should not be able to do this. Physically, he should not be able to do this.
It's a feat so rare, he's said to be one of only 2 people in the world known to have accomplished it.
The most amazing part is the concentration that he has to have.
To up the ante, he balances again. but just on one finger from each hand.
Wow, how does this guy get onto his fingers? How do they not break?
It's not all about strength or all about force. It's actually more about center of mass and about balance.
But the pressure on each index finger is brutal. It's like 25 kilos of bricks pushing down on a sugar cube.
There are a lot of things that can go wrong here. There are ligaments in all our joints that sort of prevent any abnormal motion. You can think of a ligament like a rubber band, and every time you stretch that rubber band, it gets a little bit easier to stretch. And eventually, if you stretch it too much, it'll break.
So how does this monk manage to do this without snapping his fingers in half?
I think that this guy can put all this weight on his fingers because he has slowly worked those joints and stretched those ligaments so that that is a comfortable place.
My understanding is that these guys go into some sort of meditative state while doing this, which makes sense. You'd have to focus your body, focus your mind in order to pull this off.
As a little kid, this monk may have started by just pushing his finger against the wall or against the floor. That sort of repetitive motion gave a sort of feedback loop into his bones. When you put pressure on your bones, there's something called mechanotransduction that happens.
And any pressure you put on your finger gets transmitted to cells in your body. As they get activated, it stimulates bone growth.
I bet if we were to take a look at his fingers, we'd find that there's a really high bone density in his fingers compared to the average person's.
You could say maybe genetically he has stronger fingers.
In our book, this amazing mind-over-matter feat of balance is definitely superhuman.
To be able to balance like that on your fingers, to control your center of mass as you are going from sitting to going over, it's just incredible.
Is he gonna have arthritis when he's 60?